The world was quiet. Too quiet. Vera sat alone on a broken wall, staring at the black sky. The city around her was nothing but ash and twisted metal. Her people, her family, her world, all gone. Only smoke rose, carrying the smell of burned stone and death. She did not cry anymore. Tears had already dried days ago. Now she simply waited. Waited for the end. Above the ruins, enemy ships circled like vultures. Their cold lights scanned the ground, hunting for survivors. Vera did not move. She had accepted her fate. She whispered, to herself, "It is over. I am the last." Her mate had died. Her children, gone. The Galactic Council had promised help, but no one came. No one cared. Her people were erased and the galaxy did nothing. A shadow moved in the smoke. At first she thought it was another drone, another machine come to finish her. But then she heard something strange. Not the cold metal steps of the enemy. Heavy. Boots. A human's steps. From the dust walked a figure. Blood on his arm, dirt on his face, but his eyes alive with fire. A human soldier. He stopped in front of her, breathing hard, his rifle hanging on his shoulder. "You're alive," he said. Vera looked at him with empty eyes. "Not for long. Leave me. There is nothing left." But the man shook his head. "No. Not while I stand." She blinked. She did not understand. Why would a human be here? The council had abandoned her world. Other species had fled, but this human, wounded, alone, stood before her with defiance. "I do not want to live," she whispered. "Then live for me," he answered. "Because I will not let them take you." For the first time in many days, Vera felt something stir in her chest. Not hope, not yet, but confusion. Why would this man care? Humans were small in number compared to the great empires. Yet this one spoke as if his will could stop the machines above. The ground shook. A beam of light swept across the ruins. The enemy had found them. The soldier looked up, jaw tight. "They're coming." Vera's hands trembled. "Run. If you leave me, maybe you survive." He gave a sharp laugh, bitter but strong. "Run? That is not what humans do." The light grew brighter. The sound of engines screamed above. Metal claws tore through the broken streets as enemy drones dropped down. Red eyes glowed in the dark, searching. The soldier pulled his rifle forward. "Ready?" He looked at her again, his voice steady. "You said it is over. I say it is not. Do you trust me?" Her lips trembled. She had trusted before, and it had killed her people. But something in his eyes, burning, stubborn, unyielding, made her hesitate. She gave the smallest nod. The soldier smiled faintly. "Good. Then we fight." The first drone landed nearby, claws clicking on the stone, its red eye locked on them. A cold voice echoed from its speaker. Target confirmed, termination. The soldier raised his weapon. Vera's heart pounded. For the first time since the fall of her world, she felt alive, not because of hope, but because of fear. And beside her stood a human who refused to bow. Blaster fire lit the ruins. The silence of death was broken, and the story of defiance began. The ruins shook with fire and sound. Elias, the human soldier, fired again and again. Sparks burst from the drone's chest until it fell, smoking and broken. But more machines dropped. From the sky, their red eyes glowing in the smoke. Vera crouched low, her hands over her ears as the battlefield came alive again. She had thought her world was already dead, but this human fought as if life could still be saved. "Stay behind me," Elias shouted, pulling her back as blaster fire cut through the stone wall where she had sat. Vera's voice cracked. "There are too many. No one has ever stopped them. You will die for nothing." Elias gave her a quick glance, his face half hidden by dirt and blood. "Then I die standing. That's something." His words struck her like thunder. No other species had spoken that way. The council had surrendered quickly. Her own people had been betrayed by their allies. But this human spoke as if his spirit could not be broken. The machines closed in. 4 of them. Their claws scraped metal against stone as they advanced. Elias's rifle clicked empty. "No," Vera whispered. "It is over." But Elias only smiled coldly. He picked up a chunk of metal from the ground and threw it at the nearest drone. It cracked against the machine's eye. The drone turned, with a mechanical shriek. Elias charged forward with nothing but a knife. Vera gasped. He leapt on the machine like a wild beast, stabbing again and again. Sparks showered the ruins as the drone fell. Another aimed its blaster, but Elias pulled the dead drone's body in front of him, using it as a shield. The shot ripped through. "Metal missing him, you see?" Elias shouted, kicking the machine aside. "They can bleed too." Vera stared in shock. He was reckless, foolish, but alive. Something inside her chest burned. She had thought all courage was gone from the galaxy. Yet here was one human, bleeding, fighting, refusing to kneel. The last 2 drones advanced. Elias was breathing hard, his arm bleeding worse now. He swayed on his feet, yet he raised his knife again. Vera's eyes fell on a broken weapon lying in the rubble. She picked it up. Her hands trembled. She had never fought like this. She was a widow, a mother once, but never a warrior. Still, she remembered Elias's words. "Then I die standing." She stood, aimed, fired. The shot struck the drone's leg, sending it crashing down. Elias turned, surprised. Vera fired again, this time straight through its eye. The machine fell still. For the first time, silence returned. Only 2 survivors breathed among the ruins. Elias staggered back to her, a smile on his tired face. "That's more like it." Vera lowered the weapon, her hands shaking. She whispered, "Why are you doing this? Why fight when all hope is gone?" He leaned against a broken pillar, catching his breath. "Because hope doesn't ask for permission. It comes when someone refuses to quit." She looked at him with wide, tired eyes. His words were strange, dangerous. Yet they felt like fire in the cold. The sky rumbled. Enemy ships circled again. More would come. "We need to move," Elias said. "Is there anywhere we can hide?" Vera hesitated. She thought of the old ruins beneath the city. Long ago, her people had built secret tunnels, a last defense that was never used. "There is a way," she said softly. They ran through the ruins, ducking under collapsed walls and broken towers. Every shadow felt like a trap, every sound like death. At last, they reached a shattered plaza. In the center lay a cracked stone seal, half covered in dust. Vera pressed her hand against the old symbols. With a groan of gears, the stone shifted, opening a dark path below. Elias looked at her with raised brows. "Not bad. You've been holding secrets." "It is not a secret," Vera whispered. "It is a grave." They descended into the tunnels. The air was heavy and damp. Old lamps flickered with faint blue light, long forgotten. Elias studied the walls. Strange carvings told stories of her people, proud warriors, bright cities, a culture now erased. "You built all this," he said quietly. Vera touched the wall with trembling fingers. "And we lost it all, because we trusted the galaxy to protect us." "Then stop trusting them," Elias said. His voice was sharp but steady. "Trust yourself. Trust me." She looked at him in silence. His face was hard, but his eyes burned with something she did not know. Humans were small, weak compared to great empires. Yet in this one human, she saw something larger than empires. Defiance. At the end of the tunnel stood a massive door of black steel. Vera froze. This was built during the last war. A vault of weapons. My people swore never to open it. Elias smiled faintly. "Looks like the perfect place for us." The door creaked open. Inside lay racks of old weapons glowing faintly with power. For the first time since the fall of her world, Vera's heart skipped with something almost like hope. But then, The ground shook. From above came the echo of claws and metal screams. The enemy had found the tunnels. The machines were breaking through and there was no way out. The steel door groaned as it closed behind them. Dust fell from the ceiling. Vera's heart pounded in her chest. The sound above was growing louder, metal claws striking stone, the sharp scrape of machines digging through. "They're coming," she whispered. Elias moved through the vault, his eyes scanning the rows of ancient weapons. Strange alien designs glowed faintly, left untouched for centuries. He ran his hand across a large cannon, its surface humming with hidden power. "Good," he said simply. "Then we don't have to go looking for them." Vera stared at him in disbelief. "You cannot fight them all. This is not courage. It is madness." Elias grinned faintly, his teeth flashing in the dim light. "Maybe, but madness keeps us alive." The ceiling cracked. Dust rained down. Vera stepped back as a red light pierced through the broken stone above. A drone's eye. "Termination. Confirmed," it said in its cold metallic voice. The wall burst open. 3 machines dropped into the vault, claws clicking, weapons charged. Their eyes glowed with perfect, merciless red. Elias didn't hesitate. He grabbed the alien cannon, aimed, and fired. A blast of blue light roared out, striking the nearest drone and throwing it across the vault in pieces. Vera gasped. The weapon had not been touched in centuries, yet the human had used it as if it were his own. "How did you—" she started. Elias cut her off, reloading with quick movements. "Doesn't matter. It works." The other drones advanced, firing beams of burning red energy. Elias rolled to cover, dragging Vera with him. The wall exploded where they had stood. "You see?" Elias shouted over the roar. "They bleed too. Metal or flesh, it doesn't matter, they can fall." Vera pressed her back against the wall, shaking. She had never seen anyone fight like this. Not her people, not the council armies. Only him. But more machines were coming. Their claws echoed through the tunnel above, hundreds, maybe thousands. Elias fired again, the cannon screaming with power. Another drone exploded, the last one charged straight at them, claws outstretched. Elias tried to fire, but the weapon went dark. "No power," he muttered. Vera froze. The drone leapt. She thought it was the end. But Elias didn't flinch. He pulled his knife and met the machine head-on. Sparks flew as steel met steel. He stabbed into its joint, climbed onto its back, and drove the blade deep into the glowing core. The machine convulsed and fell. Elias dropped to the ground, breathing hard, his arm cut open again. Vera stared at him, her eyes wide. He was bleeding, wounded, exhausted, but still he stood. Still he fought. Above them, the tunnel shook again. This time the sound was heavier. Different. Vera's blood ran cold. She knew that sound. It was not drones. It was something larger. Shadow fell across the vault as the ceiling split open. A massive figure lowered itself into the chamber. Its body was twice the size of Elias, armored in black steel, glowing with red veins of energy. Its voice rumbled like thunder. "Resistance. Recorded. Termination required." Vera trembled. "It is a warbringer." Elias wiped blood from his face, eyes locked on the towering machine. "Good. I was getting bored." The warbringer's arm transformed into a cannon. Light began to gather at its core. The vault walls shook with power. Vera grabbed Elias's arm. "We cannot fight this, not even you." Elias looked at her, his eyes burning. "You're wrong. Everyone can fight. The only question is, how long do you stand before you fall?" The machine fired. The blast tore through the vault, missing them by inches, shattering ancient weapons into dust. The air was filled with smoke and fire. Elias pulled Vera behind cover, coughing. "We need to move. There has to be another way out." Vera shook her head. "There is none. This place was built to be sealed. It is a tomb." Elias gave her a fierce smile. "Then let's break it open." He grabbed a strange weapon from the rack, a long spear glowing with white light. He spun it in his hands, testing the weight. Feels right. The Warbringer turned toward them, heavy steps shaking the ground. Vera whispered, "We cannot win." Elias stepped forward, weapon in hand. His voice was calm, steady, certain. "Then we make them remember us." The Warbringer raised its cannon again. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The vault began to collapse. Vera's heart raced. She wanted to run, to hide, to vanish into the darkness. But when she looked at Elias, standing tall with defiance burning, in his eyes something inside her shifted. For the first time, she didn't want to accept the end. The machine's cannon lit up. Elias charged, shouting like thunder, and the vault filled with fire. The vault shook like thunder. Dust filled the air. Vera could barely see, but she heard the roar of energy as the Warbringer charged its cannon again. Elias stood in front of her, spear glowing white in his hands. His body was battered, blood streaking down his arm, but his voice was steady. "Stay down," he said. "This one's mine." Vera's voice broke. "You cannot fight that. It is built to destroy armies." Elias looked at her, and for a moment, she saw no fear in his eyes, only fire. "Then it will remember me as an army." The Warbringer raised its cannon. The chamber lit with red light. Elias charged. The blast fired, shaking the ground. At the last second, Elias slid across the rubble, the beam missing by inches. He struck with the spear, driving it into the machine's armored leg. Sparks erupted. The Warbringer stumbled, but it did not fall. Vera cried out, covering her ears, as the machine's roar echoed like a storm. Elias climbed up its side, stabbing again and again. Sparks rained like fire. But the Warbringer swung its arm, slamming him into the wall. Stone cracked. Vera screamed. Elias dropped to the floor, coughing, blood on his lips. Still, he forced himself to rise. The Warbringer aimed its cannon again. Vera's chest tightened. She had lost her family, her people. Was she about to lose him too? Her hands shook as she looked at the fallen racks of weapons. Her people had sworn never to use them again. They had chosen peace, even when it killed them. But Elias's words rang in her mind. Everyone can fight. The only question is, how long do you stand before you fall? Her heart pounded. For the first time since the destruction of her world, Vera stood. She grabbed a weapon, a long staff with glowing blue veins. Her hands trembled as she aimed it at the Warbringer. "Stay away from him," she cried. A bolt of light burst from the staff, striking the machine's head. The Warbringer staggered, its aim thrown off. The cannon fired, into the ceiling, blasting open a hole of smoke and light. Elias blinked, surprised, then grinned through his pain. Now that's more like it. Together they attacked. Elias leapt forward, spear flashing, while Vera fired shot after shot. Sparks burst with every strike. The Warbringer roared, swinging its massive claws. Vera nearly stumbled, but Elias caught her arm, pulling her aside just as the claws smashed into the stone floor. "You see?" Elias shouted. "You're stronger than you think." She fired again, this time straight into the Warbringer's chest. The machine shook violently, its red veins flickering. Elias took the chance, driving his spear deep into the glowing core. 30. Warbringer screamed, then collapsed with a thunderous crash. Its body sparked and burned, the light inside it dying out. Silence. For a moment, neither of them moved. Only the crackle of fire filled the vault. Then Elias dropped to his knees, breathing hard. Well, that worked. Vera stared at him, her chest rising and falling. She whispered, You are not like the others." Elias chuckled weakly. That's one way to say it, but the silence didn't last. Above them, the sound of engines roared again. The ground shook. The vault ceiling cracked wider, letting in red light. Vera's stomach dropped. "More are coming." Elias pulled himself up, using the spear as a crutch. His face was pale, but his eyes burned still. "Then we keep moving. There has to be another exit." Vera hesitated. The tunnels were built as graves, but she remembered the old stories, Hidden doors. Secret paths meant for the desperate. She nodded. This way. They pushed through the smoke deeper into the vault. The air grew colder, darker. Strange markings covered the walls. Warnings written by her ancestors. Do not open. Do not awaken. At the end of the corridor stood a smaller door, old and rusted. Vera touched the panel. It sparked and groaned, then slid open. Behind it lay a narrow passage. They entered quickly, the sound of collapsing stone behind them. The passage twisted for a long time until it opened, into a vast chamber, and there, in the center, was something neither of them expected. A glowing crystal suspended in the air, humming with raw energy. Vera gasped. This is the heart, the last secret of my people. Elias stared at it, wiping blood from his face. What does it do? Her voice shook. It is power, enough to fuel cities or destroy them. Elias gave a tired smile. Sounds useful. Before she could answer, the chamber shook. A deep rumble echoed through the walls. Vera froze. No, it cannot be. From the shadows, dozens of red eyes lit up. More drones, more machines pouring into the chamber. Elias tightened his grip on the spear. His voice was calm, almost steady again. Looks like we found their prize. Vera looked at him, fear in her heart, but also something else. Fire. The same fire she saw in him. He glanced at her, nodding once. Then let's make them regret coming here. The machines advanced, their red glow filling the chamber. The crystal pulsed brighter as if sensing the danger. And in that moment Vera understood. This fight was no longer just survival. It was the spark of something greater. Together they faced the enemy once more. The chamber glowed with the crystal's light. Dozens of red eyes stared from the shadows. The machines had found them. Elias raised his spear, jaw tight, chest heaving. His voice was steady. Stay behind me. Whatever happens, we don't give them the end they want. Vera's throat tightened. She had heard many oaths in her life. Political promises, council lies, vows of peace that broke when war came. But this human's words felt different. They were not polite, they were raw, they were iron. The first drone leapt forward, claws out. Elias met it with a furious strike, the glowing spear cutting straight through its chest. Sparks burst, metal shrieked. Another charged, and Vera raised her staff, firing a bolt that shattered its head. The battle exploded in fire and light. For every drone that fell, 2 more entered. The crystal pulsed brighter, its hum shaking the chamber walls. Why are they here? Vera shouted, firing again. Elias kicked a drone back, teeth gritted. Because whatever that thing is, he nodded at the crystal. It scares them. Vera's hands shook. It is the heart of my people. They swore never to use it. They feared it would consume us. Elias stabbed another drone, sparks flying. He glanced at her with a fierce grin. Then maybe it's exactly what we need. The floor cracked. The crystal pulsed once more, and suddenly a beam of light shot upward through the ceiling, straight into the night sky. The machines froze for a moment, their red eyes flickering. Then, almost in unison, they pulled back. Vera gasped. They are retreating? Elias frowned. No. They're calling something bigger. The ground shook. The walls trembled. Dust fell from above, and then the ceiling split wide open, revealing the night sky. A shadow fell across them. Massive, endless, a mothership. Its black hull covered the stars, its engines roaring like storms. Drones poured from its belly, descending in endless numbers. Vera's heart sank. No one has ever stood against a warship of that size. Entire fleets have fallen. Elias looked up, sweat dripping down his face, eyes locked on the monster above. Then it's time someone did. She turned to him, shocked. You cannot mean... He cut her off. We don't win by hiding in holes. We win by taking the fight to their heart. His words echoed against the stone. To her, they sounded impossible, insane. Yet the fire in his eyes made her chest burn. How? She whispered. Elias pointed to the glowing crystal. We use that. If it's their prize, then we make it our weapon. The thought terrified her. The heart was dangerous. Her people had sealed it away for a reason. But Elias was already moving, pulling a strange device from his belt. He strapped it to the crystal's base, attaching cables. What are you doing? She asked. Making it portable, he said. We're going to board that ship. Her eyes widened. Board it? Just the two of us? Elias gave a sharp grin. Two is enough. Trust me. The chamber shook again as drones flooded in. Elias finished the connections, the crystal now humming with a new, focused light. He lifted it with a grunt, strapping it onto a harness on his back. Let's move. They ran through collapsing tunnels, fighting their way up toward the surface. Every step shook with the roar of the mothership above. At last, they emerged, into the open night. The mothership's shadow stretched across the ruins. Thousands of drones swarmed like insects, but Elias's eyes stayed fixed on the massive ship. We'll need to get inside, he muttered. We can't fight it out here. Vera's voice trembled. And if we fail? Elias looked at her, his face hard but his voice calm. Then we die standing. But if we succeed, the galaxy sees what one human oath means. Before she could answer, a bright beam of light descended from the mothership, scanning the ground. Elias grabbed her hand and pulled her forward. There, he shouted, pointing at a half-broken tower. At the top, an old landing platform still jutted out. They climbed fast, dodging drones and fire. Elias blasted at enemies with the glowing spear, while Vera fired bolts of blue light. Together they cut a path through the swarming machines. At the top, the mothership loomed close, its black surface almost within reach. A docking bay opened, pouring out more drones. Elias tightened his grip on the spear. That's our way in. Vera stared at him. You truly mean to enter it? He nodded. His voice was steady, sharp as steel. This ends at the heart of their machine. Not before. Before she could answer, the platform shook. Drones swarmed from below, climbing toward them. Above, the docking bay glowed brighter. Elias pulled her close, eyes locked on the massive ship. You asked me why I fight, he said. His voice was low, firm, almost like a vow. I fight because surrender is worse than death. I fight because every human oath is simple. We do not bow. Not to gods, not to machines, not to anyone. Vera felt her chest tighten. For the first time, she believed him. The platform crumbled beneath their feet. The swarm closed in, and Elias leapt, straight toward the open maw of the mothership. Vera screamed, but his grip on her hand held strong. Together they vanished into the shadow of the enemy's greatest weapon. Darkness swallowed them as they landed inside the mothership's docking bay. Metal walls stretched high above, lit with red lines that pulsed like veins. The air vibrated, with a low hum as if the ship itself was alive. Vera stumbled, catching her breath. The fall had nearly broken her, but Elias pulled her to her feet. His grip was strong, steady, unshaken. Stay close, he said. His eyes scanned the shadows. This place will not forgive mistakes. Drones crawled along the walls like insects, their red eyes glowing. They did not attack yet. They were watching, waiting. Elias raised his spear, his voice low. They want us to walk into the trap. Vera's skin prickled. Then why step forward? He gave her a faint smile. Because sometimes you spring the trap before it springs you. They moved deeper into the ship. The halls were cold, filled with strange symbols carved into the steel. Vera felt unease in her bones. This place was not built only for war, it was built for control, for breaking minds, and then she heard it, a voice, familiar, soft. Vera. She froze. Her blood turned cold, it was impossible. Yet she knew that voice, her mate. She turned sharply. At the end of the hall, through the red glow, she saw him. His tall figure, his warm eyes, his hand reaching for her. Tears filled her eyes. Her knees went weak. No, it cannot be. Her mate's voice was gentle, like before. "It is me. Come with me, Vera. We can be together again. You do not have to suffer. You do not have to fight." Elias's head snapped toward her. He saw nothing but empty air. His jaw tightened. "What are you seeing?" She shook, staring at the vision. "Him. My mate. He is here. He lives." Elias stepped closer, his voice sharp. "No, that is not him. That's the ship talking. It's inside your mind." Her tears fell. "But I hear him. I feel him." Elias gripped her shoulders. His eyes burned into hers. "Listen to me. They are using your grief to break you. It's not real." The voice grew stronger, echoing sweetly in her head. "Leave him, Vera. Leave the human. He will die soon. Come with me, be safe, be at peace." Her heart tore in two. She wanted to believe Elias, but her longing screamed louder. Her arms reached out, trembling. Elias grabbed her wrist. "Don't. If you take that step, you're theirs. They will own you." Her chest heaved. Her mate's image smiled softly. "Why suffer when you can rest? Stay with me. Forever." Vera's body shook violently. She closed her eyes. The pain of memory cut deep. Her mate dying, her children's screams, her people burned to ash. The grief was unbearable. But then another voice echoed in her mind. Harsh, human, alive. Surrender is worse than death. Her eyes snapped open. She stared at the image, and in a whisper she said, "You are not him." The false figure froze, its smile fading. Elias stepped back, spear ready. "Good. Now show them what a widow can do." Vera raised her staff. Her hands were steady now. Her grief turned to fury. She fired, and the illusion shattered like glass. The walls trembled as the ship shrieked in anger. The drones swarmed instantly. Red eyes filled the hall. Elias grinned fiercely. "Now they're mad good." The two of them fought side by side, weapons glowing, their strikes tearing through metal and fire. Vera's fear was gone, replaced by something sharp and burning. She was no longer waiting for death, she was choosing to fight. As they cut through the machines, alarms blared. The floor shook. From above, massive doors opened. At the heart of the mothership, a chamber revealed itself. Inside was a giant core of swirling red energy, the ship's brain. Elias's eyes lit, with savage determination. "There, that's what we came for." Vera's breath caught. "If we destroy that..." He gave a grim smile. "We burn this monster from the inside." But as they moved toward it, the walls twisted. Metal shaped itself into long, black tendrils, blocking their path. A voice boomed through the ship, deep and merciless. "Human defiance. Alien grief. Both will end here." The core pulsed brighter, shaking the chamber. Vera's chest tightened, fear threatened to return. But she remembered the illusion, the lie, the way Elias had looked at her, demanding she choose, and she whispered to herself, "Not the end. Not while we stand." Elias heard her, and gave a quick nod. His eyes burned with fire. "That's it. Now let's finish this." They raised, their weapons together. The swarm closed in, the core roared with energy, and the mothership itself seemed to breathe, as if alive and hungry. The mothership's core pulsed like a red sun, filling the chamber with firelight. Its energy shook the floor, the walls, even the air. It was alive, breathing, watching, waiting. Elias stood tall, his body battered, his spear glowing in his hands. Vera beside him, her staff blazing blue. Around them swarmed endless drones, crawling from walls and ceiling, claws scraping, eyes glowing red. The voice of the ship boomed like thunder. "Your defiance ends here." Elias grinned through the blood on his lips. "Funny, that's exactly what I was about to tell you." The swarm attacked. Vera fired first, bolts of light tearing through the machines. Elias charged, his spear cutting arcs of white fire. Together they moved like a storm, striking, dodging, never stopping. But for every drone they destroyed, more came. The chamber filled with endless enemies. Vera's arms ached, her breath came sharp. Elias stumbled, but each time he rose again, his eyes burning. The core's energy grew brighter, preparing to unleash a final blast. Vera gasped. "If it fires, we are finished." Elias glanced at her, his face pale, his smile sharp. "Then, we don't wait for it." He ripped the crystal, the heart of Vera's people, from his harness. It glowed brighter than ever, humming with power. Her eyes widened. "Elias, if you release that, it will destroy us too." He looked at her, with fierce calm. "Maybe. But if the galaxy remembers this moment, it will not be wasted." Vera's chest tightened. She had lost everything, her family, her world. But this human, this reckless, stubborn soldier, and he was willing to burn himself to light the stars. And in that moment, she made her choice. "No," she said, her voice strong. "Not alone. If you fall, I fall with you." Elias blinked, then laughed softly. "You're more human than you know." Together they lifted their weapons, channeling the crystal's power. Light exploded from it, white and blue mixing in a storm. The energy rushed into their weapons, their bodies, their very voices. The drones froze, their red eyes flickering. The core trembled, its voice cracking. "Impossible!" Elias roared, charging forward. Vera followed, her staff blazing like lightning. Together they struck. Spear and staff pierced the core, driving the heart's energy into its center. The chamber exploded in light. The mothership screamed. Its walls twisted, its veins of red bursting one by one. Drones collapsed, their eyes dimming. Fire erupted, swallowing the corridors. Elias and Vera ran, the floor breaking behind them. Explosions tore through the ship as the core unraveled. "Faster!" Elias shouted, dragging her along. They reached a hangar bay, flames chasing them. In the corner, an old escape pod rested, half buried in dust. Vera's voice broke. "It will not fly." Elias slammed the controls. The pod shook, coughed, then roared alive. He grinned. "See? Never doubt stubborn machines, or stubborn humans." They jumped inside. The pod launched just as fire consumed the hangar. Through the small window, Vera watched as the mothership cracked apart. Flames burst across its surface. Then with a blinding flash it exploded, breaking into 1,000 burning fragments that rained across the sky. Silence followed. Elias leaned back, his chest rising and falling, his eyes closing. That's one way to end a night. Vera stared at him, her eyes wet. She whispered, "You should not exist. No one fights like you. No one burns like you." He opened one eye, gave her a weak grin. "That's humanity. We don't know how to quit." The pod drifted into space, carrying them away from the ruins of war. For a moment, it felt like they were the only two beings alive in the universe. But they were not. Across the stars, countless worlds had seen the explosion. Countless ears had heard Elias's earlier broadcast, his message of defiance. And in that moment, sparks lit across the galaxy. Oppressed species rose from the shadows. Broken fleets gathered again. On world after world, voices whispered the same words. Humans do not accept the end. Vera felt it too. The fire inside her was no longer grief, it was strength. She was no longer only a widow. She was a witness to the spark that could ignite rebellion across the stars. She looked at Elias, half asleep but still smiling. And she whispered, "The galaxy will remember." The pod drifted on, carrying them into the unknown. But their story had already begun to spread. Not a story of death, a story of defiance,